Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate S&S. Something you need to be aware of coming up into the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Most people love having that turkey. 75% increases are expected. Okay, now that could actually be higher on turkey meat. And the reason for that is the bird flu came through and devastated many flocks. We're talking millions of birds were just completely decimated by this stuff. Something you need to also be aware of if you keep birds at home, if you raise chickens or whatever it is you're raising, guinea fowl, you name it, it's out there. You want to make sure that you're aware that bird migration, the southern fall migration, has actually started. That started around the end of September. It really peaks here in the middle of October, carries on through about the first week or so of November. So you need to be aware of that. Keep your birds in their covered runs for right now. You don't want them out moving around where they could come up in contact with some kind of contaminated feces or, these wild birds that fly over, they poop and pee on everything. And that's typically how your bird's going to contract that. So if you keep them in a covered run, keep them safe, you shouldn't have a problem with your flock catching that stuff. So that would be my suggestion to you. That's what I've been doing out here. Chickens hate it when they've been free ranging and all of a sudden they're kept in their coop, kept up in their little closed runs and stuff. They kind of, get a little antsy and want to move around, but it's for their protection and for your protection as far as long-term survival, guys. That's something you need to be thinking about, especially with everything that's happening today. We're seeing ramp up of conflicts. We're seeing reports coming in where like the UN is now coming into Haiti. They got to get a handle on that situation down there. We'll see what happens with that. But I think it's important for each of us as preppers and each of us as Americans to really kind of step back at this moment and examine what it is that we really need, what it is that we need to be prepping up on. Because if you're not getting your food now, if you're not getting water filtration systems, ways to store water and stuff, you're going to have some serious issues come into next year. That's one of the things that we don't want to listen to just what our administration says in office about things, because obviously that is coming up in the midterms and people are going to misrepresent facts. We've seen that here recently with the oil, OPEC Plus, and all that. They were trying to keep them from reporting that they were going to cut production down of what we're buying from them. That's going to affect the vote, I'm sure, but we'll just have to wait and see, guys. But one of the things that you as a prepper that you can do is you need to sit down with your family. If you have kids, if you have, and I'm talking grown kids, small kids, whatever, you need to see exactly what it is that they absolutely need, what their concerns are in a situation where, the commodities of the world are just not really out there anymore. So if you're looking at from just a food standpoint, we covered a little bit yesterday about making sure that you keep trade items on hand, not just for trade but for seasoning your foods and stuff. Talking about a lot of spices and things like that. Look at the way it was done in the past and you should succeed in the future. Understand when our first settlers came over into this country, they did not have general stores they could run to. Everything was had to be done by them or someone locally, and it was just works of the hands, guys. And I think that's important to remember that the days of just going to a store and just, well, I'm just going to get what I need here and paying pennies on a dollar for it, those are over. They're not coming back. We've seen a lot of stuff in the last couple of years where, used to you had 24-hour access to stores. That was great. I mean, just any time during the day or even in the evening, you could be like, you know what, I'm going to the store, beat the crowd, and go out. You don't have that anymore. It's basically a conditioned lockdown. People don't seem to understand what's happening. They can set in a lot of curfews and stuff like that just by adjusting the hours that stores are open. And speaking of curfews, if you live down in Fort Myer area and things like that, you need to be aware that from Wednesday to Saturday, you can come into that area to take care of your home. If you're a homeowner or a property owner there, you come into those areas for in a short window of time, but you have to be out of there by a certain time as well. So you need to check on what those curfews restrictions are currently right now. They're trying to get a lot of the debris and stuff from all the homes that were destroyed out, and it's hard to do that when you have people just kind of mulling around town area. At least that's the story that they're telling us now. What is really going on? Your guess is as good as mine. But I figured I'd bring some of that information to your attention. But the most important information right now, Make sure you're getting food. Stockpile that stuff to the ceiling if you can. Fill your closets, fill under your beds. Anywhere you have where there's not direct access of sunlight, where it stays in a cool, dark area, that's a great place to store stuff, especially if you're dealing with a lot of dry goods, such as beans and things, and rice, even at that. Even if you're vacuum sealing that stuff, you don't want to leave it in direct contact with light. You want to make sure it's stored properly. It's going to last you longer. It's going to be a little bit more fresh when you pull that stuff out, guys. You know, I know we've talked about prepping a lot on this channel. We've talked a lot about the day and age that we're living in, and how time is getting short. You know, they have this thing called a doomsday clock, and to act like this thing is just barely holding off, we'll see. I don't expect a doomsday scenario where it obliterates the entire world. Obviously, I just don't think it's there. It's not prophetic that that's going to happen anytime soon. But there is a lot of destruction that's coming our way, and we're not just talking about from other countries or even our own government. We're talking about natural disasters and stuff as well, guys. You need to be aware of what's happening with the earthquakes, the wildfires, these massive storms, tornadoes, the failures of crops. You know, that's one of the things that the crop reports are coming in for what had happened the earlier part of this year when those crops are coming in. You're looking at 50 to 65% loss of crops, mainly because of the fertilizer shortage. It's something you need to be aware of. The lack of fertilizer that we have across the world, that's going to affect not just this country, not just our state or your state, but the entire world, guys. When you have countries that are already in famine areas and basically they're getting the gleanings of those fields given to them, and now there's no gleanings left, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get bad. And when you have resource shortages, war is shortly to follow. That's one thing history has taught us, regardless of what our politicians tell us. Understand this: when there's food shortages and there are resource shortages, we're talking fuel and things like that, diesel shortages, gas shortages, you know, you name it, heating oil shortages, you're going to have a lot of issues with countries wanting what you have. And I guess that's why our administration up in office right now has made sure we don't have anything set back, at least not for the American people. It's set back for the elites and things like that. You hear too many times where they have these inspirational words, and that's one thing I've noticed here lately is a lot of these actors and stuff that come up, they want to tell you about, you know, how money's not important and that's not the happiest part of their life and things like that. But for the person who's struggling to feed their child, that's working two jobs, you know, there's single moms, single dads out there, and they're really struggling. That comes off as kind of like, you know, they don't have any idea what you're going through, but they like to make it seem like they are the next, you know, Gandhi or something. You know, they have these words of inspiration for you that's going to help you get out there. And they do interviews with millionaires and billionaires like that. Now's the time to invest. To invest what? People are hurting out there. There's a disconnect between the, you know, the elite class and the normal American guys. There really is, and they know that. But it's always nice to get that screen time to just talk crap, because then they can feel better about themselves and all the people that they've you know, oppressed and kept down, because they, in their mind, everyone has a chance to get to where they're at, even though it takes money to make money. And most people just don't have enough to even put the basic needs on their table right now. And that's one thing as preppers we need to be a real, you know, realizing too, is we have a bad image when it comes to the way people perceive most preppers. They see us as hoarders. We're just hoarding food. We're just hoarding food. We're like, but most preppers that are out there, and most, well, all preppers that I know, if there is a need in the community or in a community, a neighboring community, they go and they fill that need with their preps. You know, we've seen that recently with a lot of these preppers. We had Airborne Preparedness, Survival Living, and there was a few other, WIC Actual, I think his name was, and some other groups that were actually going down into the southern parts of Florida, and they were taking their food preps and stuff and serving meals to people, just trying to help people out. But people want to call them hoarders, like they don't do anything good for society. But yet they were on the scene helping out a lot better than FEMA and a lot of other government agencies. And that's something you need to be aware of, guys. When the government tells you, you know, we're here to help, like Ronald Reagan said, that's the worst thing that you can hear, because you don't want their help. They're there to help themselves. And that's what it comes down to. But I hope everyone has a great day. We're going to get off here.